Chapter 13. Sensationalism replaces common sense. Towards the end of the 1970s, two incredible transformations in human and canine behavior occurred in perfect unison. Children suddenly stopped teasing dogs. Dogs suddenly started attacking without provocation. In less than a decade, human children thoroughly evolved into empathetic little beings. Thoughtful of the feelings and mindful of the needs of other forms of life. Adults also became paragons of morality and empathy, ceasing all forms of provocation and abuse towards animals. Just as quickly as children and adults evolved en masse into considerate beings, dogs reverted to their ancestral roots, discarding their long-held attachments to mankind and attacking humans in wild abandon. Dogs seemed no longer affected by heat, pain, or frustration, and began attacking only from a natural viciousness. Or so the media would now have us believe. Half a century ago, the newspapers relished a good dog attack story as much as the media today. But here is where any similarity between the newspapers of a generation ago and the media of today ends. As recently as 30 years ago, newspapers were still printing circumstances believed to have been a trigger or contributory factor in dog attacks. All manner of insightful details were given which explained canine behavior. This type of reporting filled two vital needs. It provided both entertainment and information on individual cases of dog attacks, but even more importantly, this type of reporting provided subtle information for the prevention of dog attacks. Behaviors from small infractions, such as pushing or shoving a dog, to major abuses, like hitting dogs with pipes, were observed as triggers for a dog attack. These details were given in addition to some of the larger forces at work, such as the chaining of dogs, owners permitting dogs to roam loose or children attempting to interact with unfamiliar dogs. The reporting of dog attacks and the overall attitude of the people a generation ago seemed to maintain a healthy balance between the danger which some dogs presented versus the overwhelming tolerance and good nature of most dogs. If anything, dog attack reports in the middle 20th century demonstrated an even more acute understanding of canine aggression and the limits to a dog's tolerance than the colorful dog attack reports of the 19th century. While 19th century America was rather unforgiving of dogs no matter how extreme the provocation which made them bite, mid-20th century attitudes were more tolerant of dogs and episodes of biting. There are scores of cases reported during the 1960s and 1970s in which dogs were euthanized only after a third or fourth bite on a child. Children were known to provoke dogs, and dogs were recognized to have limited tolerance. A 1971 newspaper story which demonstrates this is entitled, "Patient Dog Bitten 6 Times by Boy." The story goes on to tell of a family trying to find a new home for their German Shepherd because they could not stop their 2-year-old son from biting the dog. 6 times the boy had bitten the dog so hard that the animal bore scars from the boy's teeth. The parents commented, "Not once has the dog retaliated. We felt we couldn't try the dog's patience any longer." Another article clearly demonstrates the understanding of the behavior of dogs in pain and the true forgiving nature of dogs. A 1948 article tells of a boy, Jimmy, walking in the woods with his dog, Bobo, and the poor animal stepping into a steel-jawed leg trap. The boy could not bear to see his dog howling in pain and attempted to free him. But each time he approached the dog, the distressed animal snapped at him. The article then describes the thoughts of the boy. For a minute he wondered what he should do: run for help and let Bobo suffer until he got back, or try to get Bobo free, even if it meant getting bitten. Jimmy decided to risk the bites. He reached in toward the trap's jaws. Bobo bit him 3 times. Jimmy winced but kept trying to open the trap. Finally he did. Bobo jumped out and immediately began licking Jimmy in gratitude. Another case reveals both the overall and immediate events which led to a dog attack. In 1972, the parents of 3 children went out to dinner, leaving a babysitter in charge. The babysitter left the house, leaving a 9-year-old in charge of his 2 younger siblings. The children decided to make popcorn and accidentally spilled the scorching hot kernels on the back of their German Shepherd dog. The dog reacted violently by attacking the children. An account of an attack by a German Shepherd police dog provides an excellent visual impression of how the attack occurred. Not even a fellow member of the police force can get away with treading on the tail of Wolf 3. Wolf 3, German Shepherd member of the police canine corps, was sitting by his master, Patrolman Funderbruck, near an escalator of the City Hall subway station. Another patrolman was standing with his back to Wolf 3, when people getting onto the escalator forced him to take a step backward, right onto the tail of Wolf 3. Wolf 3 whirled about and sank his fangs in the patrolman's leg. The officer was treated at Philadelphia General Hospital and released. From the early 20th century until the late 1970s, hundreds of dog bite stories describe events which contributed to dog attacks/bites. Children are found throwing blankets over dogs' heads, pelting them with snowballs or rocks, shoving dogs, running in fear from dogs, poking dogs with sticks, yanking bones out of their mouths, inciting dogs to attack other animals, and generally trying the patience of even the most tolerant of dogs. Dogs are found biting in reaction to being scalded by burst radiator pipes or after being tripped over. We find a case of a chained dog watching children in the yard chase a rabbit, and a frustrated dog biting a child running past him. There are scores of cases of children trying to hug, pet, kiss or caress chained dogs and being severely bitten in the process. Experts asked to comment on cases of dog attacks during the 1960s and early 1970s almost unanimously agreed the problem rests with owners failing to control their dogs, children attempting to interact with dogs unfamiliar to them, and the use and procurement of large dogs for guard/attack dog functions. But by the 1980s the events contributing to a dog bite virtually disappear from newspaper reports. Dogs were now reported as biting without provocation. Even some of the experts, relying on media accounts for their information on dog attacks, began to erroneously blame specific breeds. It was the great misfortune of the pit bull to be the new fad dog, and thus the new dog found an incidence of attacks at the very same time when the media stopped reporting triggers or events which precipitated an attack. This would not only prove to prejudice the public against pit bulls while creating a myth of breed unpredictability, but would also play an important role in the general public's loss of knowledge about canine behavior. In 1950, a man was rushed to a hospital in Pennsylvania in critical condition from loss of blood. The man was able to tell doctors that he had fainted while in the backyard with his Dalmatian. A neighbor found the man with the dog alongside him. The Dalmatian had chewed his master's hand off at the wrist and the man had lost a critical amount of blood. This poor old gentleman loved his dog to the last. Before dying from shock and loss of blood, he insisted the dog was only trying to rescue him and only injured him in an effort to drag him into the house. One of the last things the man said before dying was, "He's a good dog." Whether this dog was indeed trying to rescue his master or was exhibiting some other, less altruistic behavior is unknown. What can be gathered from this sad story is the prevailing attitude towards dogs. At the time, many people's perceptions towards dogs were the same as could be seen 50 years earlier, that even good dogs could do bad things and that even bad dogs could be found doing good deeds. Consider an incident reported in 2002. An elderly woman was found dead in her daughter's home. The woman appeared to have several dog bites on her. A pit bull and a pit bull mixed breed dog were in the house with the deceased woman. The police and coroner reported the dogs had caused her death. The newspapers, always on the alert for a pit bull attack, ran the following headlines and stories. Killer pit bulls rip granny to shreds, New York Post, December 11, 2002. Grandmother mauled to death by family's pit bulls, Newsday, December 10, 2002. One article claimed that one pit bull was covered in blood. This same pit bull in another article appeared to have blood on him. The him was actually a female dog. One neighbor claimed, the dogs were vicious, they barked a lot and looked vicious. Another neighbor claimed they were nice dogs. One newspaper printed a photograph of one of the dogs clearly agitated, teeth bared, in the new and stressful surroundings at the animal shelter. The dogs would be impounded for the next 8 months. The daughter, the owner of the dogs, could not believe they would have killed her elderly mother. She hired an independent forensic pathologist from the renowned Henry Lee Forensic Institute to review and re-evaluate the findings of the initial autopsy report. Only then was it discovered that the woman had died from a cardiac arrhythmia, and the few bite wounds on her body were non-lethal and post-mortem. Her death was attributed to natural causes and it was determined the dogs did not participate or contribute to her death. There was a dangerous dog hearing which resulted in both dogs being released back to the daughter. No retraction or correction was ever printed about this pit bull attack. This incident remains permanently archived in the newspapers and on the internet as a pit bull-related fatality. Note, it is well documented that dogs will, on occasion and for unknown reasons, inflict post-mortem bites on their deceased owners. This has been documented with breeds from poodles and dachshunds to Labradors and mixed-breed dogs. In a society of violent video games, internet pornography, schoolchildren shooting their classmates, husbands killing wives, court TV, gang warfare, drug abuse, serial killers, terrorist bombs and mothers drowning their children, we are becoming increasingly more difficult to shock. Our monsters need to be increasingly terrible in order to keep pace with a society easily bored by our own species' violent acts. Since dogs have for thousands of years befriended, sacrificed and served mankind in selfless devotion, it would require constant and wildly exaggerated claims of ferocity and supernatural abilities in order to convince most people to view them as a significant danger. The intense and persistent media and political attention given to pit bull attacks has skewed our perceptions so dramatically that we no longer have a balanced view of the dangerousness of a very few dogs against the extreme tolerance and contributions that millions of other dogs provide. And this has been accomplished by constant over-sensationalism of anything pit bull related. The barrage of headlines with the word pit bull in them appears to be very convincing evidence of the vicious nature of pit bulls. But are these reports legitimate evidence of aggressive behavior within the breed? There are simply too many outrageous examples of media manipulation and fear-mongering to list. Not only are there different types of biased reporting, but the media has been relentless in pursuing all things pit bull. Despite claims to the contrary, there is no question the media vastly overreports pit bull attacks as compared to other breed attacks. In September 2003, a young boy was killed by a husky-type dog in Alaska. The incident was covered briefly in only 2 Alaska newspapers. In December 2003, an elderly woman was killed by a pack of pit bulls in Florida. None of these dogs were actually pit bulls. 4 were identified by animal control as lab mixes and 2 were pit bull mixes. This story was covered in over 200 major U.S. newspapers and television stations, and was reported in newspapers in Australia, the United Kingdom, South Africa and Canada. In 2004, a man was killed by his large mixed-breed dog in California. The briefest mention of this attack, less than 50 words, could be found only in the local newspaper. A month later, a child was killed by a pit bull in Michigan, and this story ran in over 100 national and international newspapers. Nor is this extraordinary media blitz confined to the American media, as a pit bull-related fatality in the United Kingdom in January 2007 generated over 1,120 articles on this tragic, but singular event. The over-reporting of injuries to children by pit bulls versus other forms of grievous injuries to children are possibly the most disturbing type of reporting. We are justifiably upset when a child is the innocent victim of a dog attack. Dogs that inflict severe/fatal injuries on children are certainly dangerous dogs. However, the level of fear and outrage towards dogs after such an incident is not proportional to the real risk of severe injury and death. In Illinois, on November 5, 2005, 3 pit bull-type dogs rushed out of a house and attacked 2 children. One child was severely injured and the other child was very critically injured. Even the owner was severely bitten in an attempt to control his dogs. During the next few days, there were over 250 articles printed on this incident. The story was covered in Canada, Japan, Australia, Russia, India, Italy, on Fox News, CNN News, and in over 200 national newspapers. Though one boy suffered grievous and life-threatening injuries and remained hospitalized for over a month, the child did survive. The media continued to report on the long and difficult recovery of this boy over the next month. 8 months later, in August 2006, another 60-plus separate newspaper articles were published covering this very same attack. The same week as the non-fatal pit bull attack on the children in Illinois, at least 8 children suffered other types of horrific injuries and abuse from a parent or guardian, which resulted in the death of 7 of these victims. None of these extreme child abuse injuries/deaths warranted more than 1 or 2 small articles run only in the local newspapers. This type of over-reporting of pit bull attacks versus acts of extreme human violence towards children demonstrates how media bias can easily distort the public's perception of the dangerousness of dogs, while minimizing the more frequent and devastating injuries suffered by children. Errors and random breed identifications by the media have been discussed. However, one further example will demonstrate that even when the breed has come to be identified accurately due to intense public and political interest in a case, the media will still make gross errors when referring to breeds of dogs involved in attacks. The 2001 San Francisco death of Diane Whipple is unquestionably the most publicized dog bite fatality in the history of the human/dog relationship. Thousands of articles were written on the initial attack and the subsequent murder trial of the owners. An entire book was written on this single dog bite-related fatality, The Red Zone, and another entire book was published on the victim, Death of an Angel. In many severe/fatal attacks, the first newspaper reports in the day or two following the attack include breed identifications that are unreliable and inaccurate. Initially, the breed involved in this case was identified as bull mastiffs or pit bulls. Due to the unprecedented amount of interest in, investigation into, and coverage of this case, the breed of dogs involved was later correctly identified to be the Presa Canario. Photographs of these dogs ran in dozens of newspapers, and even the dogs' names became familiar to many people, Bain and Hera. Yet, incredibly, for years and thousands of articles later, some in the media still refer to this as a pit bull-related fatality. In the coverage of a pit bull attack in Illinois in 2005, the regional newspaper printed the following quote as additional evidence as to the vicious nature of pit bulls. A San Francisco couple was charged with involuntary manslaughter when a pit bull they were watching mauled a woman in the hallway of an apartment complex in 2001. And if over-reporting and erroneous reporting of pit bull attacks were not enough for the media, they have concocted a new and novel way to titillate their readers. Incredibly, the media now reports pit bull almost attacks or escape from attacks. The reporting of almost or escaped attacks is a phenomenon never witnessed before in the newspaper reporting of the interactions between dogs and humans. Approximating on the low side, 350,000 persons are attacked and bitten by dogs seriously enough to require medical attention each year in the United States. This translates into at least 950 persons per day receiving a significant bite by a dog. Incredibly, the media will often report an almost attack or an escaped attack by a pit bull in which absolutely no injuries were inflicted on a person. The only conclusion which can be drawn from this is that the media views an almost pit bull attack to take precedence over a real attack by another breed of less interest. This type of reporting is most often found in communities or areas in which pit bull bans are being considered. Instead of reporting bites by other breeds to present a more balanced and realistic approach to dog bite prevention, the media feeds the flames of hysteria with reports of pit bull almost attacks. In 2005, California was in the process of considering statewide dangerous dog and/or breed-specific legislation. An example of journalistic hysteria during this time is found in the San Jose media, which ran the headline, "Elderly Man Narrowly Escapes Pit Bull Attack." This article goes on to tell about an elderly man taking out his garbage when he spots two loose pit bulls. The man claims that he saw them, and they saw him, and then they came after him. He is reported to have run from the dogs and escaped into his house. This is obviously the one and only trait. Pit bulls are not reported to have the ability to outrun elderly gentlemen. This same article goes on to report another pit bull attack involving two pit bulls and a man walking his small dog. The man was reported to have not been injured, and his small dog received minor injuries. How or why the man and his small dog escaped from this attack by two pit bulls is not reported. In Louisville, Kentucky, in 2005, after a fatality by a pit bull and another fatality by two mixed-breed dogs, which were, of course, reported as pit bulls, the news also began grasp ing at pit bull straws for stories. Since Louisville was considering breed-specific dog laws in reaction to these two tragic cases, the newspapers attempted to keep pit bulls in the news by reporting almost attacks. The story, "Pit Bull Traps Boy," on car roof, tells the not-so-harrowing story of a boy placed on the roof of a car by his father when a pit bull charged them. The father fended the dog off with a pole and a lawn chair. No one was reported to have been bitten, scratched, mauled, clawed or otherwise come into contact with the dog. But, the article made special attention to note the dog was confirmed to be a pit bull. Even in communities that are not focused on enacting pit bull legislation, some in the media cannot pass the opportunity to print any encounter between a person and a pit bulls. 2 teenagers escape serious injury after pit bull attack near Hanover, is a headline that ran in 2005. This story claims the pit bulls attacked without warning, and that the dogs were vicious. The only problem with this story is that no one was truly attacked, bitten, knocked down or mauled by any of these 6 pit bulls. 2 teenagers walking down a street in Hanover stated that 6 pit bulls came out and started attacking us. We kept walking. It was reported that neither youth was seriously hurt and, after being examined by a doctor, the scrapes were deemed to be so minor as to not require any treatment. 6 dogs, pit bulls or otherwise, surrounding and jostling a person can be an unnerving and worrisome event. Especially in today's climate of fear surrounding pit bulls, these 2 teenagers were justifiably worried. But are 2 upset teenagers a newsworthy event? Also, these teenagers did not escape serious injury, nor were they attacked, because it is obvious these dogs were exhibiting appropriate bite inhibition. Even in this large pack, acting independently of their owner, clearly excited, and with 2 unknown and very nervous acting teenagers, these dogs did not inflict any bites. More accurately, the headline should have read, "Negligent owner allows dogs to frighten teenagers." It has gotten to the point where any pit bull witnessed near a person in distress is assumed to be the cause of that distress. In March 2004, police received a call about a pit bull mauling a man in Fort Madison, Iowa. The dog was lying beside his owner, who was dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. The dog did not bite, attack or cause any injury to this man, but was simply lying beside his fallen master. A dog of another breed would have been heralded for devotion to his deceased owner. Since persons being severely injured or killed by automobiles are so commonplace as to not elicit much reaction from the reading public, one media source seriously misrepresented the facts of one incident to grab the interest of their audience. Man struggles to recover from pit bull attack, update on pit bull attack, and pit bull attack victim leaves hospital, were 3 separate news stories run from April 14 through April 29, 2003.12. The first line of one of these articles reads, "After a vicious dog attack, families of the victims often suffer the most." The first line of the follow-up article reads, "A Rockford man has now left his hospital bed after being attacked by a vicious dog." These articles are a shameful and gross misrepresentation of the facts. The facts of this accident are that a man was walking into a restaurant when a pit bull began chasing him. Unfortunately, in running away from the dog, the man ran into the street and slammed into a passing van. The man's injuries were the result of coming into contact with a motor vehicle, not with the dog. Additionally, pit bulls attacking cats, and even rabbits, are now being reported in newspapers, usually accompanied by highly emotional quotes from parents claiming fear for the safety of their children. The reporting of such cases as pit bull-related aggression conveys either questionable motives or a shocking level of ignorance about very natural, albeit unpleasant, canine behavior, i.e., chasing and killing small prey animals. Even the most innocuous events involving pit bulls are deemed not only newsworthy but threatening. Chicago, Illinois, was in the midst of a much-publicized proposal to ban pit bulls in late 2005. A neighboring suburban community swept up in the latest media-driven pit bull hysteria was also considering a ban of pit bulls. The area newspaper tells of the experience and testimony of one man at the town council meeting. The news story is headlined, "Pit Bull Angers Resident." The article goes on to tell of one resident's anger and fear of pit bulls resulting from a loose pit bull stealing food from his bird feeder. The man addresses the council, stating that the town needs to do something before there is another incident. With thousands of legitimate and serious injuries inflicted both by other breeds of dogs and by parents on children each day in the United States, we need to examine why our society views a pit bull attacking a cat or an almost pit bull attack as more newsworthy. The media barrage of all things pit bull has defiled the image of the pit bull so profoundly that it has resulted in a public perception that only certain breeds of dogs can be aggressive towards humans and other animals. Time and again other breed attacks are reported only if the attack was so extreme it could not be ignored. The overwhelming majority of serious and even severe attacks by other breeds are either unreported or underreported as compared to pit bull attacks. Proof of this is found in human interest stories in which attacks by non-pit bull dogs played a role. Often, non-pit bull or non-Rottweiler dog attacks are not reported on their own merit, but only as they relate to how the attack impacts another part of a person's life. The following examples are taken from only one year, 2005. A highly publicized case of the first face transplant was reported in November of 2005. This was a significant medical and media event. How the woman came to need this operation was revealed to be the result of a severe mauling by her Labrador retriever. The woman, while unconscious, had her nose, lips and chin torn off by the dog. The attack occurred months prior to the operation and was apparently of no interest to the media at that time. Another attack by a large mixed-breed dog, listed as a shepherd mix, was only reported in the media a month later when the mother was arrested on a charge of child abuse after she failed to get medical attention for the severe injuries caused by the dog. The dog had bitten one of her children in early 2005, and a social worker had advised the mother to remove the dog from the home. A few weeks later the dog bit another child in the home, inflicting a laceration 7 by 2 centimeters long on the top of her head. The attack became publicized due to the consequences of the bite becoming infected and the mother being arrested for child neglect. An October 2005 attack was not reported until December 2005 in the story of a hardship case of a man who could not afford to pay the bills incurred as a result of a dog attack. 2 months earlier the man had attempted to stop a chow dog from attacking 2 girls on the street and in the process he was attacked, losing part of his finger and receiving severe bites to his arm. Unable to work after these injuries and with no insurance, the story tells of the unfortunate financial circumstances of this man. A September article discussing the outcome of a lawsuit and jury-allotted award to the parents is the only report found of the severe injuries received when a 4-year-old boy was attacked by a caretaker's dog. The dog, a golden retriever basset hound mix, had clamped its teeth on the boy's head and swung the child back and forth repeatedly during this attack. In December 2005, a brief article was published in reference to the recovery and solicitation of funds to help a small girl who was the victim of a severe dog attack. The article is about the family's gratitude to all the kindness people had shown them and their injured daughter. At the time of the article the child had been released from the hospital and was facing several more surgeries, including major reconstructive surgery to her face. One sentence describes how her injuries came to be, the fourth grader was injured last Tuesday by the family's Labrador Retriever, who has been with the family for 3.5 years. Details regarding the incident were unavailable. The attack itself was not reported in the media when it occurred and is only mentioned in this article about the family's appreciation of people's support. The obvious harm of such unbalanced reporting of different breed attacks is illustrated in a comment made by Chicago Alderman Ginger, Virginia, Rogai. In attempting to pass pit bull breed-specific legislation in 2004, the alderman was quoted in the Chicago Sun-Times as saying, "Have you heard of any other particular breed that has, in fact, killed or maimed someone?" There are two distressing aspects to this comment. The first is the obvious media impact, by over-reporting pit bull attacks, on creating a public perception that only certain breeds of dogs are responsible for severe/fatal attacks. But there is a further disturbing aspect of this alderman's comment. Unlike most individuals, lawmakers have both a staff and a responsibility to research a topic thoroughly before attempting to enact life-altering legislation and making statements to the media. Proposing laws based primarily on information spoon-fed by the media is a seriously flawed approach to controlling dangerous dogs. This is evidenced by the fact that the alderman seems totally unaware of the number of dog bite fatalities which have occurred in her own and adjacent districts in the Chicago area. In Cook County, which encompasses Chicago, there have been 12 fatal dog attacks since 1965. 10 of these fatalities were caused by breeds of dogs other than pit bulls. A valid and reasonable argument can be made that it is not the responsibility of the media to provide a comprehensive and accurate running log of dog bites in the United States. Editors, journalists and reporters all have both personal and professional standards and beliefs as to what is deemed newsworthy and of public interest. With an infinite number of stories about the human condition occurring each day, editors pick and choose which individual stories they believe have relevance. In a free and capitalistic society, this is perfectly acceptable and reasonable. So it needs to be recognized that it is neither the responsibility nor the intent of the media to provide unbiased or detailed information on the number and types of dog attack injuries in the United States. One repeatedly finds in media accounts of dog attacks, inaccurate breed identifications, seriously flawed accounts of circumstances surrounding the attack and vital and relevant details concerning both human and canine conditions regularly excluded. Yet, all previous scientific studies on fatal dog attacks have used newspaper reports as either their sole source of reference or as an integral part of the study. Therefore, it is vital for both the scientific community and the public to recognize that the media is under no obligation to provide balanced, comprehensive or accurate data on severe/fatal dog attacks, nor does it. The pit bull has borne the brunt of much of the misinformation and negative handling by the media. However, all breeds of dogs and even humans suffer from this new type of journalistic approach. 100, even 30, years ago, the media provided subtle and not-so-subtle tips on dog bite prevention in their telling of dog attack stories. Today, this is all but absent. It may be speculated that in today's highly competitive media climate shocking stories serve a journalistic agenda. Events that are sudden and unexpectedly violent are interesting to most people. Events that occurred as a result of cause and effect, or events that make sense are rather boring or of less interest. For example, family pit bull mauls taught to death. Versus abused chained dog kills toddler. The first headline used two terms designed to shock, pit bull and family. Pit bulls are now recognized as menacing and fearful animals, so placing this breed in the headlines is assured to shock and get the attention of most people. The use of the term family is slightly more subtle, but certainly used intentionally to reinforce fear. A family dog killing a family member implies the most basic and shocking betrayal of trust. It implies there was a familiar bond, which the dog chose to violate. It implies the dog's behavior was unexpected, unpredictable and, therefore, shocking. The second headline implies cause and effect, or on some level makes sense. It also removes the perception of a familiar bond, thereby removing the implication of a violation of trust. This then becomes less shocking or less attention-grabbing. Yet, both of these headlines describe the same incident. Unsurprisingly, the first headline was the one chosen by the media. Consider two more headlines: Rottweiler's attack, kill toddler. Versus Uncle's chained guard dog kills girl. The first headline, the one chosen by the media, imports no information other than that Rottweilers had caused another fatality. The second headline describes the same incident and provides two significant pieces of information that may prevent future dog attacks. Over 17% of children, aged 1 day to 12 years old, killed by dogs are found to have been attacked by a relative's dog. 1 out of every 4 children killed by dogs involved a dog that was kept chained. These two circumstances pose important risk factors found in canine aggression. And, of course, recognition of the function of the dog, guard dog versus companion animal, is relevant data in understanding the behaviors expected from and displayed by this dog. Again, the media is not responsible for our edification about dog attacks, therefore, we need to acknowledge that the information presented by the media is entertainment and not a truthful account of the circumstances which contributed to cases of severe/fatal aggression. Of all the sins of the modern-day media, perhaps the most grievous has been the gross misrepresentation of the human/canine bond in the recounting of dog attacks. This is unquestionably seen most frequently in the reporting of pit bull attacks and in the use of the term family dog. One of the most atrocious uses of the terminology family dog is found in the recent reporting of a fatal pit bull attack in Michigan. After a 6-year-old girl was killed in an alley between 2 row houses, the following headlines were run in the media. Family's 2 pit bulls kill Hamtramck girl, 6, Detroit Free Press, April 5, 2005. Family pit bulls maul girl, 6, to death as she walks to swings, Detroit Free Press, April 5, 2005. Residents seek pit bull ban after child killed 6-year-old attacked by family's pets. ClickOnDetroit.com, April 5, 2005, one newspaper volunteered, the girl had known the pit bulls since they were puppies. This is how this dog attack was presented to the reading audience. Naturally, the public and politicians read this and found more proof of the unpredictable nature and temperament of the pit bull, or another case of pit bulls turning on their owners and/or family members. Investigation of the incident and necropsy, animal autopsy, of these 2 family pets reveal. The dogs, a male and a female, had originally belonged to the mother's boyfriend, who was recently deceased. Both dogs were 12 to 18 months old and intact. The female had signs of a previous pregnancy. The dogs were confined in the basement of a vacant house, while the mother and girl had moved into another house. Upon examination, both dogs were found to be underweight. No dog food was found throughout the entire gastrointestinal tract of either dog. Both dogs tested positive for brodifacoum poisoning, meaning they ingested rat poison. The stomach contents of both dogs were found to contain multiple foreign bodies of varied forms. Male, pieces of paper and cardboard, from a box of rodenticide, plant material, small nails, and a rubber gasket.